Hello, I'm Julian McKenzie.
And I'm Tristan D'Amour.
Welcome to another edition of the Scrum Podcast, episode 86 of our show. We are loving it, recording from our remote locations. And once again, we have another special guest with us, Kevin Raphael, another return guest to the show. We really enjoyed him the last time he was on our show, I believe was episode 56. And now he has returned to basically lay out a lot of things he has on his mind. We posed a lot of questions to him about recent events, and he went in a lot on his podcast, Sans Restriction, which you can hear in French, but it sure seems as if French might not be the only language you might want to dip in. Not going to talk too much about that, but I really enjoyed our conversation with our guest for today.
Yeah, back 30 episodes ago on episode 56, Kevin made his first English interview. He came in, was a little nervous about it, but absolutely killed it. And since then, his podcast Sans Restriction is doing an English aside, so you can hear him do English interviews with a bunch of different guests, some high-profile people, and he's coming back, and he's talking about adding that show. He's talking about having some NASCAR folks on his show and the aftermath of having that. And we had to talk about the sports network or the sports Twitter handles that are have been problematic for a while, but have been even more problematic in the past few days/weeks. And I mean, it is Kevin Raphael. If you don't know him by now, he's 100. He kept it 100 for the whole episode. And I got to say, I loved every single bit of it. And I hope really that you will as well.
I hope everyone else does as well. Also, one last thing we didn't sell you guys on. If you're curious for his pick on who he thinks should be in the discussion for greatest Canadian athlete ever, you're going to want to listen to the end. Without further ado, take it away, Kevin Raphael.
What do you do, baby? It's Kevin Raphael, and I'm doing a lot of things. I'm eating. I'm drinking a lot of water, not putting my fingers in my mouth. I'm not smoking weed. I've never smoked weed in my life. Maybe one day, we never know. Got to pay me a lot of money to do that. So these are going to be my shameless plugs.
The host of the Sans Restriction podcast. You can see him on TVA Sports. And if you have any plans to renovate your house at some point during the summer, he is also your guy for that on his renovation show on Casa. It is Kevin Raphael, our first ever return guest here on the Scrum Podcast. We see him flexing on our Zoom call. As you know, the last few weeks we've been doing these remote calls, but we're really happy to have our good friend Kevin with us. How are you doing, buddy?
Some of the top guys in there, man. I'm with the top guys. Y'all are killing it. You guys are killing it, man. It's always thoughtful, always intelligent, good research. Not a lot of podcasts do that. Well, I don't, so.
You got to give yourself some credit, man.
Yeah. No, but I don't. Well, usually my podcast, so sometimes I know the people, often. Yeah. Well, 95% of the time I've met you before we do the podcast. So I sit down, I open my Appleton. I got my whiskey.
Oh man, yeah. You should have told us. You should have told us we were going to drink on the show.
It's 11.
Is this drink?
People don't know it's 11, man. It's a podcast.
Don't know what time this is. Oh, man.
Yeah, so I usually sit back, got big microphone here and everything, and we just talk for an hour. Sometimes it's people that I haven't spoken in a month or maybe sometimes 6 months. So we catch up a little bit, and that's why I think people love the podcast. And for the people that I never met, it's good that we do it remotely because I wouldn't have Angela Price or Corey Lajoie, the NASCAR guy. So the pandemic is positive sometimes.
Yeah, and you've also had Shireen Ahmed, who's been on our show as well.
Yeah.
So you've been able to branch out and get a whole bunch of different guests for your show.
Yeah, because I want the sport community of Sans Restriction, I want it to be smart. I don't want it just to be emotional. So if you want to be smart, we got to learn from the people who know. So Shireen knows, and I learned from her, and, we spoke, and we both learned, I think, that day. So it was fun.
Yeah, no,
that question was a little bit lower in our kind of list that we kind of prepped for. But since you're starting right into it, I mean, so the Kevin Raphael show is the, on TVA Sports. If you don't know about it, you should go and watch that, honestly. It's a little, the interviews are a bit shorter, whereas like on Sans Restriction, it's like, it goes from, you have 30 minutes, you have an hour. It's like the podcast you did following the murder of George Floyd was like almost an hour 30. Is it different? How different it is? And like, how do you need to adapt to longer conversations with people and more, like in French, you'd call it an entrevue de fond type thing? Yeah,
well, the Kevin Raphael show, we usually tape 30 minutes of interview and they keep 6. So that's why when we started the show, I said, I need a podcast because 24 minutes are in the garbage right now. So it took us 3 years to do the pod, but, we figured out to do it with Bruno. But, people I know, we go, I don't want to take too much of their time too. So I always say like 45 minutes. And if it goes longer, it's an hour max. And then, go back to doing what you're doing. But for the people like Angela Price or Corey Lajoie, I think Corey was 20 because I didn't know him. And we're talking about one specific thing. Angela was the first time we were actually talking. So it was 30 minutes too. So if I don't know you yet, it's 30 because I don't want you to feel like I'm taking your time away from you. But at the same time, I want to make sure that people get to know you because the first 2-3 minutes, I tried to do a lot of jokes just to make sure that the other people, feel sit back, relax, and understand that I'm not trying to get some news stuff or pick them. But starting at like 10 minutes, this is where it usually go crazy.
What I'm curious about is when we spoke to you a couple months ago, that was your first interview in English, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
As you said, yeah. And now you have this podcast where, of course, you have interviews in French, but the interview, I believe, with Corey Lajoie was in English. I believe with Angela Price as well, Shireen Ahmed in English. What's it been like having to be able to do English interviews on top of the French ones you have for the podcast?
The thing is, because I really wanted to have some of the women's hockey players on it, and they speak English for Spooner and Nursey and all the girls. So I was like, okay, so I need to do podcasts in English because this is going to be a problem. I cannot speak with them in French. So I practiced once, I think like for 5 minutes, and I stopped. I said, you know what? Let's just record it and let's just have fun. My English is not the best, and we're going to live with it. And I think people see that and understand that it's real and it's true. So that's why they accept the fact that I don't have all the words and I have an accent and all that stuff. So I did a podcast with Cabby Richards that's going to be on next week on Wednesday.
Friend of the show, Cabby Richards.
Yeah, the big guy, tough guy. He's a tough guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and after the interview, he was like, okay, don't ever say your English is bad. Your English is good. But I was like, yeah, but it's not as good as you guys. So I have to let them know, because if somebody listens to the podcast for the first time, they'd be like, yo, who's that guy? So at least they know that I do it in French first and then in English.
Nah, but Kev, coming from a Quebecois that got pressured into dropping his accent, it's not speaking well. It's your accent.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's just what when I talk to my friends, I speak like that. When I do my interview, I speak like that.
Absolutely.
It's actually Oh, you go ahead.
We were in one of your recent shows, you were confessing that you thought that the English interviews were not going to be good with numbers and stuff, and you were kind of surprised that people still were tuning in. So how was kind of that development with staying? And are you still planning on doing more of them? Is that like a long-term project for you?
Oh, I'm keeping it. 1/3 of the pod right now is in English, so I'm very proud of it. I was like, interviews in English. Maybe we're gonna have half of what we have in French, and it's still very, very good, and we're happy with that. But it's not the same thing. And then the interviews in English, they be going crazy. Sometimes better than some in French. I'm like, okay, so we're reaching way past only French people listening to it. It's just everybody that feel like they want to hear about Shireen or Corey or Angela or Nursey, Spooner, and all the girls. And we already taped, I think, 6 more in English that we just can't wait to show the world. So, yeah, we used to do English Wednesdays, and now it's sometimes English Friday, sometimes English Thursday. We don't have a schedule. We just do whatever we want. And if it's in your phone and you feel like listening to it, I mean, it's there. It's free.
We're in the midst of a pandemic. I'm surprised you're at a point where you're able to name some of the days of the week. You have people all the time who are saying, oh, I don't know what day it is. Also, another interesting thing to notice here, talking about the fact that you're getting into English and how we're having this podcast in English, 2/3 of the people on this podcast, I mean, even if you want to include our producer, technically, Kevin Raphael, like, I'm the only person here who grew up speaking English as a first language. Everyone else here, as I understand, grew up with French as a first language and then ended up learning English. And everyone else here has been able to speak in English so well, obviously, which I think is just, that's pretty much mind-blowing. Just kind of a thing just to let everyone know, for everyone listening to this podcast. So, I mean, your English has been great ever since we had you on our show and every time we've met up with you.
I think it's better.
So I think you have nothing to worry about in terms of how you're communicating to your fan base.
Wow, thank you. I'm trying to get better at everything, trying to learn some new words. This is the thing. Something that helps me a lot with my English is Kim St. Pierre, new Hall of Famer. She's gonna be on my podcast tomorrow. We're taping with her, and we're playing Scrabble Go. So I'm learning words.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're playing in English, so I'm learning stuff, and she's awesome, and can't wait to speak with her tomorrow. But it's fun. It's fun because I feel like I'm reaching more, and I feel like the fan base that I created is getting bigger because they're like, okay, maybe I'm gonna have 2 podcasts in the whole month that I'm gonna listen because it's in English, but I'm still gonna wait and see who's the guest, and maybe I'm gonna listen to it. So it's pretty cool.
You keep name dropping all these guests you're gonna have on your podcast, which I think is really amazing. How many podcasts are you doing a week now?
So at the beginning we had 1. When the pandemic started, we had 2. Then we added English Wednesdays, we had 3. Then sometimes we have specials, so we have 4. So I think we're at 39 podcasts in 3 months, I think. Something like that.
That's crazy.
I'm gonna tell you exactly how many. I think it's 31. Because we're home, they're home. Yeah, it's 39. We're home, they're home. They ain't doing nothing except playing Fortnite. So we play a bit of Fortnite, and then I tell them, hey, you want to come talk on the pod? And they're like, yes. So then we're talking for 45 minutes, go back to play Fortnite. And Bruno been amazing. We tape usually sometimes 3 to 4 podcasts a week. Not a week, a day. So tomorrow we're taping 3, and then Monday we're taping 3 more. So I have, 2 or 3 full weeks done. So I'm very happy. It's 2 days.
Man,
I hear you talking, and with the developing that English side of your game, and you're working with TVA Sports, and like I'm not saying to say anything bad about TVA Sports, but do you see yourself working on an English language network sometime in the future?
Oh yeah, it will happen. That's why I'm trying to get better, because if I want to hit a home run over there, I got to be better. I got to be quick. I got to be witty. I got to make sure that everything I would say in French and how easy it would be for me to say it in French got to be easier to say it in English, because they maybe don't understand everything I say because of the accent, not because I don't articulate stuff like that, but because of the accent, sometimes you're just taken back. So you don't listen to the person, you're listening to the accent. So I got to make sure that everything I say matters, and that's why I'm working and getting ready, because you never know when that call is going to happen, and when it's going to happen, I'm going to be ready.
It could be
because
happening
one person and I think one person I'm thinking of in terms of like a Québécois with a strong accent on TSN is a guy like Martin Biron, who still gets great points across, is on the panels with the top guys at TSN, and has a thick Québécois accent, and maybe the first time you watch it, you're like, okay, that guy's Québécois, but like after that, like the guy's still making great points.
Yeah, and he's witty and he's funny, and you feel like you you would want to take a beer with him and speak with him for 3 hours. That's the feeling that somebody watching the show at home should have with everybody on TV. Either it's Bob McKenzie or Dave Morissette. If you don't feel like I could go in a bar with him and speak for 3 hours with him about hockey, about sport, about life, well, he's not doing a good job. And that's why I feel like I want to make sure that people understand I'm not special. I'm not a vedette in Quebec. I'm not nothing. I'm just a guy who loves his job and going to work every day. That's it.
Kevin, I want to switch the conversation from your podcast to more of the events that have been transpiring over the last few weeks. Obviously, with the death of George Floyd, there has been so many reactions. There has been so many tweets and posts and videos that have gone on from what has happened, and a lot of sports teams and leagues have reacted, and a lot of Black people and persons of color have been kind of put into the spotlight, and a lot of them have been sharing their experiences with race. And it's just been a huge overload of content over the last what feels like a year, but it's really only been about a little over a month. I'm just curious, how has your mental health been, and what has it been like trying to process everything that's been coming pretty much since George Floyd's death?
So from in a mix of 24 to 48 hours, I went from the funny guy on Instagram to the activist. And this is it was a crazy 24 hours because, I mean, we had to say something. We all go through that thing, and we had to say something. And I feel like everybody's standing up. Usually it's only the Black people that's standing up, and the white people are watching from the window, and they're like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. But now they're outside with us. And you're like, you went outside of your house to walk with me for that thing that I've been telling you for 20 years, but I mean, you didn't know and you didn't understand, but now you do. Okay, this is big. So, yeah, it's been fun. I hate when white people are asking me if I'm okay, because I always say that, don't ask me if I'm okay, because when we go through racism, we got to go to work after. And the boss doesn't ask us if we're okay. He's like, make me money. So don't ask us ask me what you can do, and let's go to work together. Let's make it happen. And as a football coach, I always tell my kids, you do your, I don't know, your 1/12. So 1 out of 12, you're 12 players on the field. And if we do that as a community, well, we're good. We should be fine. We will be fine. So yeah, a lot of things going on. A lot of things are going on, and we just got to make sure we're constant, because it's not a trend. It's life. It's every day. So we got to make sure we keep the course, and we keep on changing stuff every single day.
Have you had a lot of people checking on you?
Yeah. I mean, everybody's been checking on me. Everybody been texting me, and I'm like, guys, it's so cute. It's very nice, but I'm fine. We're just trying to find a way. But at the same time, this allows me to have a conversation with the person. So that's important. So that's the one thing that. The one good thing that comes out when you text me, are you okay, Kev? I'm like, yeah, crazy what's going on? Yeah, I know, but you know that this always happened. Oh yeah, and then the conversation is up to the races. So it's positive. It's positive. That was bad and was crazy to watch, but it's not new. We just got to make sure to understand that it's not new. How many people died and it wasn't filmed? How many times I got stopped by the cop and it wasn't filmed and I got treated like shit, even though I'm on TV? How many times my dad went through that bullshit 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 months ago? So we just got to make sure we understand that, and let's kick some ass.
I think one of the best, I don't know, I guess best would be podcasts that I heard following all of those events was your like gigantic special episode that you had. I feel like there was like 6 or 7 people on the show. I probably should have had the list of guests in front of me asking that question.
We had the we had the Bianel sur Boko plays hockey. Got drafted by the Lightning, and I was a part of the Los Angeles Kings team.
Yeah. Then an incident happened to him earlier this year where Brandon Manning called him a racial slur.
Yeah, Brendan Manning is whatever. Yo, that like hey, I'm gonna go off.
Go ahead.
On the podcast, I want him to let people talk, and then I would chime in. But the way that this league, the AHL, dealt with that was shit, and we got to keep them accountable. And 5 games? So the other guy calls the other guy a homophobic slur. It's 7, but a racial slur, it's 5. So how can you compare now? And I'm not saying homophobic slur is less than racial. Both are bad. So can we have one, set of rules, and so we don't have to compare how bad is one thing and the other thing. Let's have one set of rules, and 5 is not enough. You don't want this to happen. Suspend him for half a year. I'm telling you, nobody else is gonna talk shit if you suspend the guy for half a year. It's simple. It's simple. Pay the guy for half a year, but don't let him play hockey. Keep him home. We don't need you in the arena. We're gonna pay you, but we don't want to see you. That's it.
So you would still pay the guy?
Well, yeah, I would pay the guy because I think half a year it's a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot. So I would pay the guy, but I feel like it's worse when they send you home and they don't want to see your face so bad that they're actually paying to not see you around the arena. It's crazy. They pay you money to stay away. So that's why I would still pay the guy, because maybe he has a family, maybe he has, and you don't want to mess up the guy's life too. But you want to make sure he understands the lesson, and everybody else in the league understands the lesson. You find him a big amount of money, and you take that money and you give it to a black foundation. That's what you do. Same thing if it happened with homophobic slur. Half a year, you find him for a big amount of money, and you give that money to LGBTQ plus foundation. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mean to hijack Tristan's question, because I think we wanted to get a sense of who the other guests were on that podcast.
Oh, yeah.
When you mentioned that player, that's someone who, we bring up the stories of Evander Kane and Akeem Alou, but even though he was playing in the AHL for about a couple of days, people were talking about Boko Imana and the instance that happened with him with Brandon Manning. So I really wanted to just add that context.
You did good, and I think we didn't talk about it enough. The first time I got called the N-word was a hockey game, 15 years old. Arena Chomede, I remember. So we need to talk about it so we can get these pieces of shit out of the game, or we can make them grow and be better. Either way. Either you grow, you're better, you join, or you're out. There's no in-between anymore. Before we had the in-between, we could accept some stuff. We would, smile at some stuff. Now, we ain't thinking nothing from nobody. So, been too long. So we had Bianel. Bianel Legros, she has a foundation. She gives 1.5 million to the athletes. So that's crazy. We had Patrice Bernier, ex-captain of the Impact. We had Fabrice Ville, who's an activist doing an amazing job right now in Quebec. And we had Benjamin Saint-Just, who is a football player for the Minnesota Golden Gophers. So he was there in Minnesota when it happened, lived five minutes away from that place. So yeah, it was crazy panel, and we don't see each other because we do it on Zencaster. So I just see we have a chat, and I just see the voices and stuff, and I was like, okay, so whatever I'm asking, I gotta name the person because they don't see me and we don't see each other. So I think it was the hardest podcast I had to do because I had to be serious and stuff, but at the same time make sure that nobody talk over each other. So but it was fun to do, and I think a lot of people learned that day.
But what I think was great, and you do well to have mentioned Bianel and Fabrice mainly for the people that the two solitudes, English, French, maybe not know them. I thought was really great because on one side you had the athletes, Boko telling his story, Benjamin telling his story, but also have people that are outside of sports that are working specifically on that. I thought that was particularly great, especially coming from the whole sports shouldn't be with politics people, to just like show them that yes, it actually is. I thought that was probably the greatest part of your show.
Sport is politics. We gotta stop. We gotta stop saying that it's two different things. It's not. Sport is politics. Why are they playing the national anthem if it's not politics? Why are they playing it at the first place? There's no reason to play it. No, nobody can give me a good reason to play either the Canadian one or the United States one. Nobody can give me a good reason. So we can stand up and pay homage to the flag. I mean, I came to watch a hockey game. I came to watch Carey Price, not the flag. And I don't want to be disrespectful to the flag of Canada or stuff like that. I'm not being disrespectful. I'm just telling you, why are they playing it in the first place if it causes that much trouble? No? So
that's a fair point. I mean, we think about the anthem. I feel as if it's only been in the last few years where people have just, we go back to Colin Kaepernick, where people have really all of a sudden felt this weird sense of patriotism over this flag. And I don't know, it's just kind of going off here personally, when you see all these people just hide behind the flag and say that people who kneel towards it are disrespecting the military, it's just coded racism. It's because no one was going out saying all this stuff until it took some black quarterback to be like, hey, the way things are going in America towards black people, towards how police view them, something's wrong with that. And then all of a sudden now we're disrespecting the military if we kneel.
And I want to mention also Megan Rapinoe. She was the first person outside of Colin to kneel.
Yes.
And she from the LGBTQ plus community, she kneeled just after Kaepernick. She could have lost everything. I mean, she gained a lot, but she could have lost everything, and she still did it. And I gotta respect her. Every time we mention Kaepernick, I will mention Megan Rapinoe, because she didn't have to do it. She did. She didn't have to do it. So yeah, let's assume that politics is sport, and there's politicking inside hockey teams. There's politicking in at offices. So it's part of sport. Let's go through that, and that's it.
Before we get to the next question, I should say Zoom is giving us 7 minutes. Are you cool to come back with us if we restart again?
Of course.
Okay.
I was going to mention that.
Cool. I want to make put that in. I'll just get to the next question, and then if it dies out, we'll get to it. But I just want to ask this question next. Kevin, the last sport I ever thought we'd ever talk amongst ourselves would be NASCAR or auto racing. But of course, with everything that's gone on with Bubba Wallace, first there was the news of the Confederate flag being removed at events. Then there's the noose that's found in his garage. I just wanted your thoughts on how NASCAR handled all of it. I know you spoke about it on your podcast with Corey Lejeune. We'll get to Corey in a second because there's a particular news item I want to get to with him. You mentioned you saw the gesture that was done with Bubba, where all those drivers pushed his car to the front, and you cried. And this was something you shared with other athletes as well, and you got their reactions. I was just curious your thoughts on that, and also how you thought NASCAR handled all this, because that was a whole other debate as well.
NASCAR was one of the most racist thing in the United States 2 months ago. Now it's not anymore. It's the 180, well, not 180, 360, a complete 360. They said, okay, we screwed up for a lot of years, a lot of decades. So let's try to fix it. And let's try to fix it in a big way. And they went all out to help Bubba Wallace. Now, the news thing, so the driver is saying this is the first time he sees a noose like that in his garage. And we're going to say, yeah, but the FBI, let's listen to the guy, okay? He's been driving for 13 years. Mm-hmm. So I know we don't want, people to get mad at each other and fight during the races and stuff like that. But if there was a race in Montreal, I would go. If there's a race, near where I live in the United States, when the COVID is going to be fixed, I'll go. I just want to show the NASCAR that you might have lost some fans, but you won one in me. Because you didn't have to go that length to be the leader in the movement. They are the sport leaders in the movement. NHL ain't doing nothing except posting social stuff on social media. They ain't doing nothing. Major Baseball, they're fighting over money. When there's a pandemic and when there's the Black Lives Movement going, they're fighting over money. The NFL, Roger Goodell came out and did a nice video. Where are the owners? So it doesn't count for me. If the Roger Goodell does a video and the owners ain't talking, I ain't listening because the owners are paying Roger Goodell. Roger Goodell is not a spokesperson for the owners. I've never seen Roger Goodell outside of the Cowboys, Dallas Cowboys locker room. It's Jerry Jones I see. So I want to see Jerry Jones talk. So NFL ain't doing nothing. And the National Soccer League, Women's League,
the NWSL,
yeah. They took a stand. So those two sports, NASCAR and the NWSL, took a stand. I'm baffled by that. I'm disappointed in the other leagues, but I'm optimistic for the one that stepped up. And I'm a fan now of the Portland Thorns. I don't even know who they are, but I'm a fan now, okay, because I chose a team. I don't know about the league, but I'm trying to learn about the players, and I chose a team, and I'm a fan. You support me, I'll support you.
Tristan,
shout out Christine Sinclair.
Yes, I was about to say.
Yeah, Tristan is playing. Tristan
plays there. Yeah, so I think that's a pretty good team to be with.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy.
Sticking with NASCAR here, the latest news story that's kind of developed from the sport now involves a driver you interviewed on your podcast, Corey Lajoie. It seems as if the race team that he is with secured a sponsorship that will see him drive in a car that's decked out in Donald Trump 2020 regalia. It seems as if it's going to happen for the next 9 races. I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on that? Is it something that caught your attention? This was someone you spoke to on your podcast, yeah. And he's a friend of Bubba Wallace.
So like he said, there's he said it on the pod. He said there's teams that have a lot of money to make sure that their car are on the racetrack.
Mm-hmm.
His team doesn't have a lot of money, so I'm not putting that on Corey Lajoie. I'm putting that on his team. Now, if NASCAR want to do something about it, let's go. But until I see Lajoie wearing a MAGA hat, I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. He's been defending Bubba Wallace since the beginning of everything. So I mean, it's not his fault. It's like at TVA, if the boss says something, and we have to put Trump in the right corner, well, what you want me to do? It's not my fault. I can say that I'm not racing and I'm not doing the TV show. I might say that actually, but that's every single person's fight and every single person's decision, and we cannot judge that.
So Kevin, based on what you were just saying, I was wondering, because of all of the news going around, and like that is not a new thing again, at how problematic, racist, and so many other words that aren't coming up to me about Barstool Sports.
Yep.
I was wondering if that specific thought process would still be okay with you, given the overwhelmingly problematic personality that is the higher up at Barstool.
Oh, it's unfollowed. At Barstool Quebec and Barstool, the big Barstool with a lot of millions, unfollowed. I don't need that kind of bullshit. You're an ass. It's over. I ain't supporting asses. I'm supporting people that wants change. They made their decision. They made their beds, and now they got to sleep in it. And they got to sleep in it with the people that support them. And those kind of people that support them, some are good and just don't mind, and I'm all good with that. But me personally, I mind. And some of the things he said about Colin Kaepernick, some of the things he said about the Arab community, that like black people, we go through a lot of shit. The Arabs, since 2001, they are going through a lot of bad stuff too. And we ain't never talking about them. So nope. They out. I made since everything happened, people are start to revealing themselves. And if you reveal yourself and you're an ass, you're out or you're blocked. I don't want to hear from you. We don't need that right now.
For some added context for people who somehow have not kept up to date with Barstool, the head of Barstool, I guess it's their president, Dave Portnoy, some old excerpts of some videos that he had done, I think for a show, had surfaced where on numerous occasions he said the N-word. And since then, one podcast, I just happened just to tune in just to see what the reaction would be. A couple personalities from Barstool who are either black or persons of color joined together on the so-called Two Bigs podcast. And one huge thing about the title of this particular episode, I believe it's Barstool NIGGR, which is supposed to be a spell out of now it's going to get extremely real. And I don't know if any of you two have listened to that podcast. I started listening to it before we got on here now, but you have some people who are staunchly going against Dave Portnoy. And I somehow feel it didn't necessarily go all the way enough. Like I felt there were different points where they were trying to justify his humor as a personality. Like, I don't know, just whenever I see people go on about Barstool and try to say, hey, it provides this edgy look at sports and it's not this professional place, I don't know. I see Dave Portnoy and I see how he carries on as this racist, sometimes sexist person. It's not a brand I necessarily want to really get involved with. And what's also confusing as well is to see other personalities in other prominent news outlets, kind of hang out with those guys and kind of give those guys legitimacy. I'm just curious what you guys feel about Barstool as a whole. I'm just really intrigued at how they've risen to the point that they're in the sports world, and they have all these people who legitimize them, but they clearly have a problematic leader in charge.
Because they were the first to do what they're doing. They were the first to do it. I mean, Sans Restriction, we're doing basically the same thing in the Instagram stories. We're putting edgy stuff and stuff that people haven't seen, and we're making research and we're writing videos and we're informing the people. But we're not misogynistic. We're not racist. We're not. I mean, there's a way to do everything. So until he's out, I'm out. It's simple. In today's world, we don't have time to try. Either it's black or white right now. There's no gray area. It's done. We've had the gray area for 400 years now. We don't have time for this bullshit anymore. There's so many people that wants to learn that we gotta reach those people. Mm-hmm. We don't have time to waste with the people who don't want to learn and don't want to change. You don't want to learn, you don't want to change, stay in your bed. I'm gonna talk to the people who wants to. So that's it. I'm out. Barstool is fine. I mean, a lot of followers, a lot of this, a lot of that. But if the boss is shit, I'm out.
I don't know if you wanted my take on. I mean, like, if you've been listening to this podcast for a little while, you know my take on how I think stuff like Barstool is absolute shit. Like, I have no patience for fuckers like this, to be quite honest. Honestly, you know, like, and then the whole fucking like stick to sports. Like, if you're tuning in to hear us stick to sports, you chose the wrong podcast. Like, it's not. No. And so I don't need to say much more, to be fair.
Yeah, and let's not think that Barstool Sport is about sport. It's maybe it was, but now it's about titties. They're putting girls falling and guys drinking and stuff like that's what they're doing right now. It's not sports. It's not sports. You talk to me about Cam. Let's have a convo about Cam Newton. Why is the guy paid minimum salary? His guaranteed money is minimum salary. When some of the worst football players, some of the worst backups, and some of the worst backups of backups are making sometimes 6 times, 7 times, 10 times better, more than him, and the guy is a 2015 MVP of the league. Let's talk about that. I don't want to see guys drinking, shotgunning Coors Lights. That's not what I want to see. I want to, I want sports. So That's why I drifted away.
Saturday for the boys and all that. Like you've seen those flags go around. Saturdays for the boys or whatever.
Yeah.
What kind of whack statement is that?
It's so
fuck that
bad.
shit.
The girls are working so hard. Women's sports is working so hard. Barstool could have taken women's sport to a whole other level. It could have been their flag, the women's sports, but they decided to go with the frat boys, and I mean they're following. A lot of athletes are liking what they're doing.
Yeah.
I stopped and I unfollowed.
Yeah. I think that's put on your part, Kevin. I want to get to another topic with regards to a tweet you had put out the other day.
What did I say?
From the Score on Canada Day, where they put out a photo tweet asking who is the all-time greatest Canadian athlete, and they have options like Gordie Howe, Terry Fox, Ferguson Jenkins, Wayne Gretzky, Elvis Stoico, Donovan Bailey, Haley Wickenheiser. I'm going to go through the list here. Mike Weir, Clara Hughes, Steve Nash, Bianca Andreescu, Penny Oleksiak, Sidney Crosby, Georges St-Pierre, and Christine Sinclair. And you took an objection to that post because it excluded a couple other athletes on there. Who are some of those athletes on there? And just out of curiosity, to put you on the spot, who do you think is the greatest Canadian athlete?
I'm trying to find the tweet back because I want to make sure.
Yeah.
That I have that picture in front of me, because this was one of the most disrespectful tweet I've ever seen.
Wow.
They got to put some respect on our people name. Okay, I got it here. Okay, so one name that I said was Michael Kingsbury. The guy won. He's almost at a decade of winning world championship. The guy is making records, that stuff we've never seen before. We've never seen that before. Guy went to the Olympic, was a baby, finished second to another Canadian who's not on the list, Alexandre Bilodeau. And then when he had the whole field, he won the thing, and it wasn't even close. So Bianca Andreescu's going to be there. She been here for a cup of coffee. She won one tournament. Yeah, it's the U.S. Open, and maybe she won 2 or 3. I don't care. It's not 10 straight years of domination like Michael Kingsbury. No, don't even mention the name near me. Don't do that. That's one. Alexia. Okay, fine. When is the time you hear about Alexia? One every 4 years. When is the Olympics? People do not mention her. People do not talk about her. People ain't saying nothing about her. Michael Kingsbury is here every single year winning everything. Now, Crosby, I'm good with that. This is the best hockey player. I'm going to go through the list. So, boys, I'm sorry. I'm going off.
Kevin, go ahead. Don't apologize.
So, Crosby, I'm all good with that. The man is the greatest player in the league right now. He's the greatest Canadian of all time. I mean, they put Gretzky in there. So, I'm not going to be mad about Crosby. But if you're putting Crosby, where's Mario Lemieux? So if you're putting Crosby, you got to put the other guy. Don't put one. Your list is shit if one is there and not the other guy. Then Georges St-Pierre, I'm all good with that. One of the greatest Canadian athletes ever. One of the greatest, the greatest mixed martial arts artists ever. Christine Sinclair. I want to do that right now. I don't want to do what I'm about to do right now. And it's not her fault. It's our fault. Media's fault. You talk to 10 people. How many people know Christine Sinclair? You talk to 10 people. How many people know Christine Sinclair?
Not as much as they should.
That's our fault. But I mean, she's amazing. She's great. But let's be real. Christine is not the one that we all know. Ask 10 people if they know Marie-Philippe Poulin in Canada. Bet your life none of them knows. It's all stuff like Steve Nash, 2 times MVP, got to be on the list. Greatest, he got to be on the list. One of the most underrated players in the NBA history. For me, Clara Hughes, she's near the top of being the best Canadian athlete of all time. I mean, she did it in the summer. She did it in the winter. She's representing a movement. She's there in the community. She did some before the sport, during the sport, after the sport. Got to put her in there. Mike Weir.
You won an Masters.
He won one. He won one. It's like Mike Ward is like the X, the one X that we had, and we're like, man, she was so nice, or he was so nice. He was everything I envisioned in a wife or a husband, and then it screwed up. It screwed up after 3 months. We started to live together, and it screwed up. That's Mike Weir. He was everything we envisioned. He won one, and then that's it. And then Ellie Wickenheiser deserves to be on the list. She deserves to be on the list. I believe Poulain is better than her, but I mean, Poulain is better than Ellie Wickenheiser, man. Come on, guys. Hayley Wickenheiser was the best player at a time where women's hockey wasn't as developed as today. Today, and I don't want to be disrespectful, Hayley Wickenheiser wouldn't be better than Marie-Philippe Poulain and Mélodie Daoust in today's league. And I'm being disrespectful right now, but it's a fact. Donovan Bailey, that's not the guy who cheated?
No, that's Ben Johnson.
Yeah, that's Ben
Johnson.
Okay, my bad. You saved me because I thought it was the guy who cheated.
No.
Deserves to be on the list. Keep him on the list.
Donovan Bailey was once on the Scrum Podcast. You can go back in our archives and find that episode.
Okay, so you're good. Let's keep him on the list. Elvis Stoico.
He was big in his day in the figure skating world. I don't have the list of accolades in front of me with Elvis Stoico, but he was known in the last decade.
I know, but greatest Canadian athlete of all time, we shouldn't say it was known. We should say, man, this dude, I have a fond memory of this person. I've seen documentaries about it. I know something about him, like on top of my head. Each and every other name that I mentioned I have a memory on top of my head. Elvis Stoico, I don't. Now, Wayne Gretzky, greatest, he got to be there. He needs to be there. Ferguson Jenkins, I believe they put him because of the Black Lives Matter movement. That's how I feel.
That's a guy who, probably the most prominent Black Canadian baseball player.
Yeah, but we're talking about greatest Canadian athlete of all time.
Very fair.
I'm not saying he's not great. He's great, but he's not the greatest Canadian athlete of all time. He's not. He's not even in the convo. He's a great Canadian player, great man, did a lot for the movement, but we got to take away those, he did something special, this, that. If we're saying the great Canadian athlete of all time, we got to be real with everybody. And then Terry Fox got to be on the list. Got to be on the list with everything he's been doing. And
I have a question then. So off the logic of, if we're thinking of a Canadian athlete, and off the things that they were able to do, for like the way you described Ferguson Jenkins, he was big for the movement and big for everything that he was able to do. Terry Fox captivated Canada for the length of time that he did, for what he did, which is amazing. I thought about it here. Do you put him on that list? Because you think of all the athletes with all the dominance they've had for years and years, and you just put up for Mikael Kingsbury, who was able to win world championships year after year. Terry Fox technically was just over a certain period of time, over a couple weeks, right?
You know what?
I'm not diminishing him at all. I'm just asking with that logic of how we're comparing greatest Canadian athlete of all time.
The reason why I'm putting Terry Fox on the list is because in high school, in Laval, Quebec,
right,
we did every single year the Terry Fox walk.
Yes.
What he did was more than sport. He changed the face of as an athlete, he changed the whole face of Canada with those few weeks. He changed Canada from Vancouver to the other far thing, east or west. I don't know what's the name.
You went cross country. That's something that's incredible for any human being. I mean, if any human being did it, it's incredible.
Guy was on one leg.
Yep.
It's done. He got to be on the list. He changed the whole country. Guy was on. Come on now. He got to be on the list. And then Gordia, fine. So I'm taking out Stoico. Unfortunately, Ferguson Jenkins. I'm taking out Alexia, and I'm taking out Andrescu, and I'm going to keep St. Clair. I'm going to keep St. Clair because I don't want to be disrespectful. I'm taking back what I said about St. Clair. She is that good. She is that good. And it's our fault we don't know how much she is good. So I'm taking out those 4. So you put Pooh and you put Kingsbury in there.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Kingsbury. I would definitely, in terms of just like, because I do think that the artistic sports don't get a lot of love.
Yeah.
And that, instead of Elvis Stoico, I would, in terms of just dominance in their sport, I would probably put Tessa Virtue and Scott Moyer.
Yeah. Oh my God. Oh my God.
For sure.
I forgot about them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot. Get Stoico out of here. Out of here. Let's put. So we need one more to fill up their list, their shitty list. We need one more. So we had Tessa and Scott. They're coming together. We have Pooh and we have Mick. We need one more.
And I personally don't like when those greatest of all time, when they put the young people. I mean, Penny Oleksiak. I mean, I'm a swimmer, so like I have a bit of a bias when it comes to swimming, but she's still super young. Like same thing with Andrescu. It makes me think when Pelé did the FIFA 100, he had all of those great legends, and then had Elash Diouf who was like 22 or whatever, and like was promised a great future. But do you guys remember this guy?
No,
that is
because he flopped.
Yeah, like if we're talking about greatest of all time, I better see old people's face or somebody who dominated a sport so much that we need to put them on the list. So I was I never tweet those things. Never tweet those things. Like I don't engage in conversation. I don't even answer to people. I don't do that. But this, I had to say something. Got to defend my boy.
I absolutely agree.
I agree.
The individual athletes don't get a lot of love. When it comes to athletes, when it comes to any type of discussion of who is a greatest athlete of all time, I typically go individual sports. Because like Serena doesn't have a team behind her. Well, she does, but not literally while she's playing. Michael Phelps doesn't have a team around him. You know?
No, Serena is in the convo for the greatest athlete ever.
Yep.
She's like, I think it's her. Who would it be?
I mean, what, Michael Jordan, I guess?
No. Michael didn't dominate since the beginning. Like Serena is dominating since day one. Since she stepped foot at the WTA, she was winning. Till this day, she's winning. Michael, it took him 8 years to win.
It did take him quite some time, but when he won, he dominated and elevated the sport to new heights that a lot of new athletes are taking advantage of now.
Serena is doing the same thing. So Serena, if Michael would have kept winning with the Wizards, I'd be like, okay, that guy is winning with like garbage. But Serena is playing against, like, she's playing through decades. You're supposed, like, sports supposed to be better decades to decades to decades. So the competition that she's facing is better and better and better because of the preparation and, you know history, so you get better than the one before. But her, she's better than the new people, the younger people. She's the best. Serena Williams is the greatest athlete of all time. I'm done.
Kevin
Julian and I have a never-ending argument about that, where we get so heated that we just decided to stop talking about it.
In all fairness, it's over Olympic athletes. It's over the best Olympian.
I still think Michael Phelps is in the conversation.
Well, of course he's in the conversation because he's got.
But so I think the best Olympian of all time is Michael Phelps, and Julian thinks it's Usain Bolt. For different reasons, but I'll chime in.
I'll chime in.
Go off. I'm good.
Gotta say something.
Yeah.
So, Bolt, he has 2 races that he has to do?
The 100, the 2, he does the relay as well?
Yeah, relay, I don't count it. I don't count the relay.
The one he hasn't done is like the 400.
So, okay, maybe if we count the relay. Okay, let's count the relay. So he has 3 or 4?
to like a 100, 200, the 4x100. Those are the races for sure that he's going to be in.
And Mike, how many Michael Phelps got? 8? 9? So the reason why I'll choose Michael Phelps, and I don't like the man, but I got to choose the man. Because Usain Bolt, if he doesn't win the race, he lost everything. Like everything is lost with Usain Bolt if he doesn't win the race. But he only has 3. Michael Phelps has 9. And if he doesn't win, it's not about, somebody else won, is Michael Phelps lost. 8 to 9 to 10 times every Olympics, he has to face that pressure. And he has been delivering races after races after races. That's why I got to go with Michael Phelps. And I know I'm not a swimming guy. I don't know swimming like I know football or hockey, but it looks harder for Michael Phelps to win those races. Feels like he gotta be better every single year. Usain Bolt, the competition has never come even close to him. He's that good, but is he better than the other guy? Not in my book.
Well, thank you for putting respect on Michael Phelps.
I don't want to start another argument with Tristan on this podcast.
I'm just trying to.
That's good, Kevin. You don't have to apologize for anything that you've done on this particular podcast because this, once again, you're putting in a Hall of Fame performance. You're putting yourself up there as probably maybe the greatest Canadian podcaster of all time.
Wow!
Who knows? Well, I mean, we're at that point. I just wanted to add in and say with Terry Fox, I really admired the defense of him. And again, not trying to diminish. I was just asking a question for the purposes of our podcast. And also, this is a guy who did his thing for a little over 140 days. This was a guy who, of course, should be considered in the conversation for greatest Canadian athlete ever. I just want that clarified.
And it's good that we ask questions because if we don't ask questions, we don't go through the accolades and we don't go through everything. You know, we gotta ask. You know, it's like Kristen. At the beginning, I said Nas shouldn't be there, and at the end, I said, "Nah, man, I think she got to be. Yeah, she got to ask questions.
I think she got to be there. I think she has to be there.
Yeah, she has to be there."
But the good thing about those lists, though, at least I know a lot of people do get hung up on the people that are featured there, but you're allowed to submit your own answers, and it's great to have these debates. In Canada, we pride ourselves on modesty and being these super polite people. I want more of these debates amongst ourselves where we say, hey, who's the GOAT? Who's the best? Who's the most dominant? We should be able to ask those questions amongst ourselves, and we should be able to have passionate arguments.
Yeah, and we have a lot of dominant athletes all over sports in the world. Got to talk about them. We got to let the whole world know we're that good. We are that good, Canadians. So let's go.
Yeah, speaking of that, I was kind of saving it to the end because, I don't know, I'm a big swimming guy, I was a swimmer for most of my life. You might have noticed the kickboard in the background. Yeah, it's my kickboard that I would doodle on all the time. And when I retired, I was like, I need some sort of memorabilia, and I framed it. That's cool. So that's for the little story. But you had one person on the show that I used to swim with. I used to see a lot at meets, Catherine Savard in French. And you were saying that, you know, you typically record stuff and then you hold on to it for a little while. But that one was just so good that you just had to like publish it straight up. And, you know, how was that conversation with Kat? And also, is there a point that you make, and you were talking about Michael Kingsbury, of the athletes that are in like lesser known sports to invite them on your platform and to talk with them? How important is that to you?
For me, it's the most important thing. Athletes, artists, if you're not known as much as you should be known, if I have a little bit of following, I'm giving it to you. I'm giving you a platform. I'm giving you a voice. New Catherine from I don't know where, but I knew him. I knew her a little bit. So I was like, okay, so let's have her on the podcast. It was my third podcast, was very, very drunk. And she started talking. I was like, oh, okay, this is very good. I got to sober up because this is very good.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I did the podcast with Les Frères Joseph, and I was done. Those guys killed me. And usually we keep them for like a month and a half, 2 months since we batch record. We keep them. But her, I was like, man, we need to put her out right now. Like, I cannot sit on that. She is that important. Her voice is important. She is doing everything. She's an actor. I wish to be as good as she is at everything she's touching. So love her a lot, and I wish her the best for her projects.
Kevin Raphael, you have been amazing with us on this podcast.
You guys are amazing. I'm telling you that every single time. You guys are amazing.
We're going to tell you that too. The love is very much mutual.
You guys are good at what you do, and I'm very happy that the podcast is still going on, and I'm very happy that and I'm gonna have a place to record the podcast when the pandemic is done. Y'all come in there and record your podcast in our place, because I want to make sure that you guys have the best, because you guys are working hard and you deserve the best.
Wow, man, that's awfully nice of you, Kevin. Thank you so much for joining us on this particular instance of the Scrum Podcast. All the best with your shows as well and all of your other projects, man.
Yeah, and I want to give a huge shout out to Mel Desrochers and Safia. They're working on something right now, and I want to give them a huge shout out. They are two of the best podcasters out there, and I can't wait to see the final product of what they're preparing for us. So I just had to
you might hear some familiar voices when that comes out.
Yeah, yes. I can't wait.
Let's just.
Me too. I can't wait. Kevin Raphael from TVA Sports, the Sans Restriction podcast. Thank you again, man.
It's a pleasure, boys. Anytime.
Thank you so much for listening to the Scrum Podcast. If you want to send us questions, share your stories, or, just holler at us, you can shoot us an email at thescrumpodcast@gmail.com.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at The Scrum Podcast, and you can follow us individually. Tristan is at Tristan D'Amour, so basically you have like Amour, and then you add like a D in front of it, and then an S at the end, and then JKA McKenzie is my handle. The A is in the first name, not the last, but you don't have to worry about spelling out my name and my Twitter handle. But yeah, follow us individually on Twitter, as well as The Scrum Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
You're so precise, J-Mac. I'm thoughtful, precise.
I'm trying to be precise, man. I'm just trying to, make sure that people know where to follow us.
You got no excuse not to follow us now. Anyway, if you're interested in sponsoring us or buying ad space on the show, make us do a little ad read before, after, and whatnot, shoot us an email at thescrumpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll get the ball rolling.
I like free stuff. Tristan likes free stuff. And I'm very confident that our producer, Kevin Laramie, big shout out to him, likes free stuff. You can support us for free by leaving a rating and review wherever you listen to the show, and you can share it with a friend. It's absolutely free. Don't you just love free stuff? I love free stuff. Here's some free stuff.
Also, remember to switch to the Sports Podcasting Network feed. If you're still on the Upford feed, you're not going to get any notifications with all of the new shows that are coming up. So just as an aside for you guys, special thanks to Cooper Richardson for letting us use his music in our intro. His SoundCloud is the link in the description.
This show is produced and edited by Kevin Laramie as part of the Sports Podcasting Network. You can find all of the network shows at sportspodcastingnetwork.com. Special thank you to Kevin Raphael for basically just coming in here and just killing it here for his second appearance on the Scrum Podcast. I really enjoyed it. Tristan, I know you did as well.
Absolutely. One of my favorite personalities in sports media on both sides of the language. And we managed to get something out of him that he is probably looking into jumping on the English side of things, which I thought was kind of interesting.
That's awesome.
He did his first English interview with us. We were so happy to have him back. And one of the two returning guests, including the first being the one producing this very show, Kevin Laramie, who's listening and is probably laughing a little bit. on mute on the other side of stuff. So shout out to him. And J-Mac, always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure with you too, my man. And thank you, of course, again to Kevin Raphael.
Just as an aside, it is episode 86. Episode 100 is coming up soon. Let us know if you have any ideas for stuff that we can do for episode 100. But thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for listening. And thanks for listening to the archives as well. As always, we'll hear you all next time.